Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Morgan. I am the Director of Learning Support Services with the Langley School District. Unfortunately, our ASL interpreter for the evening has not yet arrived. We will be recording and sharing this session with closed caption in the next few days as soon as possible. If our ASL interpreter shows up, they will join us, but please know that we will be recording this and we will be sharing this session with all participants with captions as soon as possible. I'd like to start the night by acknowledging that we are working to nurture the gifts of diverse learners on the unceded ancestral and traditional territories of the Mathaqui, Kwantlen, Hatsi, and Semiahmoo First Nations. As I said, my name is Michael Morgan. I'm the Director of Learning Support Services with the Langley School District. I cannot tell you how excited I am to be here virtually, welcoming you and then soon your children to kindergarten. If there's one message that my colleague Kim, who you'll meet shortly, and I wish for you to take away from this evening, is that we 100% have your kids. We cannot wait to meet them. We have an incredible staff who cannot wait to love up your kids and see what incredible gifts that they have. Our district's mission is to inspire all learners to reach their full potential and create a positive legacy for the future. And the two departments that will work incredibly closely with your child are learning support services, which exists to nurture the gifts of diverse learners, and instructional services, which inspire quality learning. In the Langley School District, everything we do centers around the First People's principles of learning. And this evening, as we welcome you and your children into the district, the most important angles that we'll be looking through, lenses, is that learning ultimately supports the well-being of the self. Learning is holistic. Learning involves patience and time, and learning requires exploration of one's identity. As we begin to meet your child, as we begin to meet you as a family, we'll work to nurture that identity. And again, like I said, our team cannot wait to meet your children, and they cannot wait to find out what gifts they have as they begin to explore that identity. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce you to our district principal of early learning, Kim Anderson. And one of the reasons that I am so incredibly confident in our district's ability to do the things that I've talked about is that we have a experienced, knowledgeable kindergarten teacher turned administrator in Mrs. Anderson. And when she talks about kindergarten, it's like me talking about basketball. It's the most important thing in the world. So I'm very excited to introduce you to Miss Kim Anderson.
Thanks, Michael. I'm so excited to be here tonight. As Michael pointed out, I'm a kindergarten teacher at heart and an early learning nurturer, and I'm really excited to welcome you and your families to our community. Tonight, we're going to talk about a few things with you. One, we're going to welcome you and share the information about the Langley School District. We're going to talk about how learning support and instructional services support your child through the early learning lens and what that looks like as your child enters kindergarten. And we're going to help you understand the transition process and those pieces that you need to have in place and that we're going to help you with as your child moves forward to kindergarten. We truly believe that all children are strong, capable, and full of potential, and we are so excited to see what happens with our children. If we provide inclusive, collaborative, connected, and accessible environments for all of our children where curiosity and play are valued, and students are given opportunities for rich learning, we can make sure and help them achieve their potential. Our early learning work focuses around the early learning framework and our early learning vision and mission, where relationships are at the heart of families, children, schools, and community all working together. Inclusive learning environments promote a sense of belonging and connection, and we believe that all of our children, all of your children belong in our schools, and they belong in our classrooms, and they can't wait to see what holds for them in kindergarten. We believe that the stories of our children and families are to be honored. They bring such incredible knowledge and depth to the learning that your children will do, and they really help your children become who they are meant to be as we share their stories. Wisdom and wonder are shared through intergenerational relationships, and we believe in the intergenerational relationships that occur between families and grandparents and community members, and we welcome you to be part of the school community. We believe that children are citizens of our local and global communities, and we are going to help them to empower them to shape their world. Motivation, engagement, and learning flourish within child-centered experiences, and we believe at the heart that the children are at the center of all that we do. And we understand and believe and nurture to the core that when children are playing, they are learning. When you enter kindergarten, if this is your child's first experience into kindergarten, one of the most exciting pieces is that your children have a whole team around them supporting them. So at home, you have a family that nurtures and cares and loves for your child. And at school and in the district, we have the same. At school, you would have a classroom teacher and perhaps a resource teacher, often referred to as a case manager, who helps support and program and plan for your child. We also have a principal and or vice principal in the school who help ensure that that learning is at the center of what we're doing and that your child stays at the center of the work. And in some cases, additional supports may or may not occur. And in those cases, you may have a teacher who supports students who have deaf or hard of hearing, who have vision difficulties, who they might have a special education assistant or a youth care worker. They might be supported by our Aboriginal support worker, a counselor, an occupational therapist, or a physical therapist, and they might be supported by a speech and language pathologist. All of these members of our district team work together in conjunction to support your child's programming and your child's learning and keep your child at the center of all that we do. I'm just going to turn it back over to Mike as he speaks about learning support services.
Thank you, Kim. The team approach for us is essential. So going back to, as Kim had said, you will 100%, your child will have a classroom teacher, and you meeting with us tonight will have a resource teacher. The principal and vice principal will know your child very, very well. And then there are all of these other supports which will work towards our following goals. Learning support services has these core beliefs. We exist to nurture gifts. We do not exist to fix deficits. Your children will teach us what our environments need to look like in order to nurture their gifts. We base our work on Dr. Martin Brokenleg's Circle of Courage. Sitting at the very first entry point is belonging. Your child belongs in our schools, academically and socially. I remember sending my son off to kindergarten for the first time, that feeling of, is he going to fit in? Is he going to have friends? Is he going to be able to do what the teacher's asking? Again, going back to the strengths of Miss Anderson, your child will belong, your child will have friends, and your child will have access to the curriculum. That's something that I am confident and that I can say will happen in all of our kindergarten classes across the district. Once a child has belonging, we always ask them to work towards independence in whatever area that might be, academic, socially, sometimes just physically. And the most important thing is that we say for children with diverse abilities or without diverse abilities, children with disabilities, without disabilities, they have rights and responsibilities. They have the same rights and the same responsibilities to master their gifts and then become generous with their gifts and give those gifts away. And we do that through equipment, we do that through support, and in the process of that, your children, your sons and daughters are going to inspire the people around them. And we talk about having inclusive and compassionate classroom. Our work supports the whole child. So when I say socially, your child will have friends in class. That's what we build our belonging on. Academically, yes, your child will have access to the curriculum. We have incredible early learning teachers led by an incredible early learning principal. And emotionally, your child will be included into the class as well. Again, going back through that lens of we exist to nurture gifts. And all of our classrooms are inclusive and compassionate. So who is Learning Support Services and what is Learning Support Services? As they arrive with their gifts, our job is to bring those gifts out. So we have district integration teachers who work to talk about universal design for learning, work with gifted students, work with autistic students, talk about behavior interventions, as well as at the secondary level. We have deaf and hard of hearing teachers, a vision teacher, speech and language pathologists, school psychologists, physiotherapists, and occupational therapists. And these professionals are assigned to work to specific schools to work both directly with your child and to support the adults who work with your child. We have the district autism team, and that team develops district capacity and use of evidence-based practices and supports for students with ASD. And it supports school teams to include students with ASD in the least restrictive environments. It also focuses on supporting students with behavioral, social, emotional, and communication needs. I'll pass it back to Kim to talk about kindergarten entry and graduation transitions.
Thanks, Michael. So kindergarten entry can be both daunting and exciting as you walk your children through the doors for the first time. And what we hope by sharing tonight is that in that process, there are steps before that first time in kindergarten on the first day that allow you to feel comfortable and your child to feel nurtured as they enter our school system. Learning Support Services supports the kindergarten entry to graduation, which means that we work with our children right from the time they enter our system all the way through to graduation or beyond. And it includes career discoveries, nurturing the strengths of our students for the entirety of the school learning journey. And so we begin, in our district, we actually begin in pre-K and work with our children in early years programs before we come to kindergarten. And as they enter kindergarten, we really work to find those strengths and nurture them through our career discoveries program. Kindergarten registration for many of you has happened already. And for those of you that have not registered, please don't worry. There is lots of time to register. We ask that for all of our students entering Langley schools, regardless of which school you are attending, and regardless of where your child may take their school journey, that they register at the catchment school. So that would be the neighborhood catchment school. Registration did open on January 16th, but we still have until March 31st to ensure your child is placed in their catchment school. So we ask that you register in your catchment school as the first point of contact for registration. If you've already registered, you would have known that you've had to show your child's birth certificate or passport, the citizenship status for yourself and your child, and your proof of residence. We also ask that you submit and share with us any assessments, reports, or diagnostic information that will help support our planning for your children. We really do our best from the get-go to make sure that we have the supports and the planning and the programming in place to nurture your child from the beginning of kindergarten, and any information that you have is helpful in that process. We've talked about the school team, and as Michael mentioned, you will have a classroom teacher and potentially a resource teacher that form the foundation of the school team, but the whole district is wrapping around your child. And we really work in the moment to find out how we can help, what supports your child may need, and how do we help your child work towards independence and growth and learning. The transition process can feel a little bit tricky, but we want you to understand that right from the beginning, we have your children, and we are looking to make sure that they are as successful and as nurtured in this process as possible. So we know it's exciting, we know it's a nervous time, but we want you to know that we have you and that we have your children, and we are open to questions and phone calls, and we'll answer anything that we can in the moment and all the way through the journey for you. I'm a mom, I'm a kindergarten teacher, and so I appreciate all that this adventure brings and also recognize the nervousness that comes with it. So please reach out at any time. During the district process, we will take in any information that you've provided, and we will ensure that your school teams also have this information. So part of my role is in ensuring that the school teams have the information you provided to make the necessary planning and steps forward for your child into kindergarten. We also know that from now until September, a whole lot of growth can happen and a whole lot of changes. For a 4 or 5-year-old, 6 months is a really big time. And so we welcome you to share changing information or things that may pop up in the next few months, as we know that that can impact how September starts for your child. So we'll review the information that you provide, and then we work to determine eligibility and identification for the Ministry of Education. Sometimes students are designated according to a ministry designation, and sometimes they are not. But we need you to know that we have your children and we will support them regardless of what this looks like for them. So we will help determine eligibility, and then we assist the school team with transition planning. So in some cases, we will facilitate a transition meeting, but in all cases, you will receive a transition meeting with your school team before the end of June. Before you go into the summer break and before we, get set up for September, you will know and have a baseline plan for what's happening before the end of June. We are really fortunate in Langley to have such a phenomenal relationship with Supported Child Development and Inclusion Langley. They really, really help guide our learning and planning as we move forward into kindergarten. And we really appreciate the work that our Supported Child Development consultants and managers and directors work with us in terms of planning and programming and sharing information that will be helpful for us in planning, but also in making sure that your child is successful. They've shared with us the information that they are noticing in preschools and in other programs and work that they're doing with your families, and that helps us plan for them moving forward. During the intake process, we've talked a little bit about registering and making sure that you're registering at your catchment school, making sure that you have completed all of the forms that you received via mail. So you would have got an envelope in the mail with a number of forms inside, and they look a little bit tricky and you may have some questions. Please reach out and ask if you have questions about those forms. Do not hesitate to pick up the phone and give me a call or to email me and let me walk you through that process. We want to make sure that those forms come back to us at the district office so that we can review for eligibility, and we can also make sure to see if we're missing anything or need to come back and ask for more information. You will notice that in the package, there was a list of forms for access of information, and we need you to fill out one of those forms for each agency or professional that works alongside your child for communication. It's really helpful to be able to speak to your child's current speech and language pathologist or your child's current pediatrician, if that may be necessary, to make sure that we have the current programming and planning in place to the best of our ability and to make sure that you're supported as well as you need. So making sure that you have completed those forms and returned them, making sure that we are able to review the information the best way possible. And then the school team will work to establish a school-based support for the start of September. And that includes a transition meeting. So you should be hearing after spring break from your school team about, hey, welcome to Langley, welcome to our school. We'd really like you to come in at such and such a time and have a chance to share your child's story and your child's journey and help us plan ahead as we look forward to kindergarten. So while we have a role at the district, we also are asking a few things of you as parents and caretakers. We understand the enormous role that you have at home and the things that are going on for you. And so we hope to be able to be clear in what we're asking of you as we move forward. We're going to make sure that you've registered your child. That's really important. As you know, Langley is a growing and booming district, and we are always watching for our numbers, and we want to make sure that your child is registered and that your child has a space in our schools. So please make sure, if you have not done so, that registration is the first priority. The second thing we need you to do is to make sure you've completed all of the forms that we've submitted in the envelope. If you have questions, please reach out. Then we ask you to participate in some of the events going around the community. We offer a wealth of early years programming that will help your child develop socially and social emotionally, and really to participate in some of those programs with peers. So we have the Gifts and Gatherings event, which we will send out a flyer for you, and those are Ready, Set, Learn programs run by one of our facilitators, Sam Colley, who does so with an Indigenous lens, but also really helps your child develop socially and emotionally, and really a play-based activity and learning. We ask you to participate in our Strong Start programs. We have 9 really rich, really strong Start programs in our district, run by amazing facilitators who welcome your children in to engage socially, to have snack and story, and to play with peers, and really to give them an opportunity to connect with others in our community. And then we ask you to join the Welcome to Kindergarten event that will be happening at your neighborhood school in the coming months. Many of those are happening at the end of April and towards the end of May, and you will receive notification from your child's school about their Welcome to K event. In the event you don't hear from your school towards the middle or end of April, I ask you to reach out and connect and make sure you have the information for the Welcome to K event. It's a really great chance to meet the kindergarten team and teachers, to meet the school administration, and for your child to visit the school in the school setting so that you can help prepare them as the transition process happens. And then for the fun, we ask you to check out the playground and come and visit the school and spend some afternoons there playing and getting to know just the environment that your child will be entering in September. The more we can front load our children and the more we can provide positive experiences for the places they're going to be visiting, the more we know that they will be successful in the coming days. You may or may not, during your transition meeting, meet your child's resource teacher or case manager. But what we also want you to know is that as a system, our school resource teachers work together to support all of our children. So when you come for your transition meeting, when you do a visit to the school, we really believe that all of our kids are all of our kids, and the staff members that you meet at the school and the staff members that you meet that may be attached to the district really are working in conjunction to make sure that you have the best event moving forward, but also the best entrance into kindergarten for your children. A little bit of piece on the forms that come forward. We just wanted you to know the referral for learning support services, that yellow form can be a little bit daunting. And there's some information there about which pages that we'd ask you to fill out. You won't be able to fill out the portions around school, and those often pertain to students who are already in our system and in the school setting. So you don't have to fill out every page in the yellow referral form, but we do ask that you fill out page 1 and 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the most important part at the end of that, and sometimes it gets missed, is to make sure you've signed the yellow form. While you're sharing your information with us, we are unable to do anything with that information unless you've signed and given consent. So please make sure as you're signing those forms that you're checking for signatures and making sure that they're complete before you're sending them in. Again, the authorization of release of information. Please complete one for each agency. Oftentimes, parents will ask if they can complete a form for 3 or 4 agencies in one. And it's really important that there's a separate form. If you need more forms, please reach out. We're happy to provide them, but it's one form per agency. We ask you to complete and submit those forms to Jaswinder Sran, and there's her email address there. Her email was also in the package, and you may have received an email from her tonight about tonight's meeting. So jsran@st35.bc.ca. And if you're unable to send those copies electronically, we have enclosed an envelope for you to mail them back to the district. We ask that you would email us and let us know they're coming, as you know, regular mail may take a little bit longer. So just pop us an email and let us know that those documents are coming. If you don't have copies of your reports or you need some help with copies, please again, reach out to Jaswinder and she will help make copies for you or invite you in to be able to do that paperwork here at the board office. We're happy to help in any way that we can. I'm going to turn it back to Mike to speak about the cross-boundary process.
Thank you very much, Kim. You may wish to attend a school different than in the boundary area that you live in. There is a process for it, and it is also important that I let you know that it is a request process, and it is not a guarantee that you would be able to have your request met. But this is what the process would look like. First, as Kim had said, you register at your catchment school. Then you request a cross-boundary form at the catchment school, and you ask the principal to sign your request, which they will. Then you take the signed form to the school you wish to register at. So please note that you will receive information regarding your request in June at the earliest, and you may not receive confirmation for a space until early September. In the past few years, there have been very few cross boundaries approved. So I'll just go back through the process again. Register at your catchment school first, request a cross boundary form, and then take the signed form to the school that you wish to register at. An important part that I'd like to just elaborate on. Sometimes we use the word eligibility, and we use the word eligibility to talk about whether a student meets a Ministry of Education criteria. It's important for everyone out there to understand that your child will receive all of the supports that we list there, whether they meet Ministry of Education criteria or not. So it might be a case that your child does not meet Ministry of Education criteria, they will receive all the supports they need. And then later on, they may meet eligibility criteria. Nothing will change. We provide the services whether they are eligible under Ministry of Education criteria or not. I'm going to hand it over to Kim for some frequently asked questions.
Thanks, Michael. There are a few questions that we often get as we're getting ready for the kindergarten entrance process, and so we thought we'd share those with you tonight. Please know if your questions are not answered tonight or you have specific questions pertaining to your child, reach out and ask the questions. We are happy to answer them, and we know we can't answer all student-specific questions tonight, but we were happy to meet with you on the phone or via a video call or just a chat to answer any questions you may have. We want you to know that we want you to be comfortable and excited about the transition into kindergarten. We don't want you to feel nervous or worried, feeling like you don't have the information you need. And so we want at any time for you to please reach out and ask the questions. Kindergarten is where my heart is, and kindergarten is really important to us here in the Langley School District. And we want to make sure that your child knows that they belong and that you feel nurtured alongside your child in the process. So how will I meet the principal at my child's school? You will hear from the school administrator in the months after spring breaks, perhaps a little bit sooner, but usually you will hear from them in the form of an email coming to invite you to either the Welcome to K event or a transition meeting, and they will set up a time to meet. You are always welcome to reach out to your school principal, and they are happy to take your call or your email or your questions as well, but you should hear from them after spring break. What are the chances of my child getting one-to-one support? Support is provided as needed to all students with a ministry designation or not, as Michael spoke of. But support is based on the needs that is done through the observations and conversations with staff and with your child's team. And that decision often around, hours of support is not made until we've met your child and until this school year has started up. Most of our students do not receive one-to-one support. Many of you have had supported child development programs where you've had workers and support as one-to-one in preschool programs or in other programs. In the school system and in our classrooms, there's a team approach to how your child is supported. So while they may receive some SEA support, they also have a classroom teacher and a resource teacher who supports them regularly with student-specific support. And we have all of the additional district and school employees who support your child in a wraparound team approach. So while many of our students don't have one-to-one SEA support, they are supported by a whole team of adults who make sure that they are working towards their potential and working towards their goals and making sure that their learning is moving forward. We want you to understand that SEA support is not always the answer for student supports. And while it happens in many cases, and while many of our students do receive SEA support, there are other means of support for the classroom. And we are working really hard and ensure that your children have the support that they need. Can we choose our own SEA? The answer is no. All of our SEAs and school staff are qualified. They have excellent skill sets and are hired to our district with the same skill set. And so while you have people who work in different schools, and while you may have had personally hired behavior interventions or personally hired home teams, at the school level, SEA support is assigned by the school administrator based on the needs of the school. So they ensure that all of the students are receiving the support they need, and that can be changing from one day to the next or 1 month to the next. And so SEA support is assigned by the school administrator based on the needs of your child in the moment and what they need, and making sure that all of those needs are met and within the context of the school. So again, just as a highlight before we let you go this evening, a reminder to complete the Learning Support Services referral form, provide copies of diagnostic assessments and the release of information forms, and make sure that you have submitted those all to us at the district level through Jeswinder's email account. Again, we know that you probably have a lot of questions and you'll walk away tonight thinking, oh, I wish I had known this answer. And I want you to know that I'm available to you to answer any of those questions you may have. And my email is listed below there. So please reach out if you do have any further questions. You will have contact with a school and a school team, but you also have access to myself and our district team for questions and ensuring that the transition is as smooth as possible. I'm going to invite Mike back just to say, to have a good evening. We are really excited and looking forward to working with your children and supporting them alongside your family in Langley. All of our kids are all of our kids, and we're really excited to welcome your children into the kindergarten program.
Thank you very much, Kim. Very important for us in Langley. While we are a rapidly growing community, we are about community first. And when we talk about who is your connection, your principal will ultimately be your connection. But right now, as Kim had said, if you have questions, Kim will be your connection to the school district. So if you have questions other than just what to submit to Jaswinder, if you're thinking, oh, I wish they would have addressed this, we have a phenomenal team here, and Kim will be your connection for that. Again, I'm excited to say she's a kindergarten teacher. This is what keeps her excited about working. So please don't feel as though your questions will be in any way bothering Kim. She'll be excited to get them and say, look at this, I've got that part. Thank you very much also to our incredible team behind the scenes, putting this on for everybody. You guys always do an incredible job. Thank you very much. And if I can relay again, just one message is, I know that we are going to have a great relationship with you and your kids. We cannot wait to meet them. Thank you very much for trusting us. We will make sure that we continue to earn your trust with your most precious resource. Thank you very much and have a wonderful evening.